Hello and welcome, intermediate students, to another intermediate lesson at LearnPianoLive.com. This is an intermediate lesson, so the assumption is that you can probably play a couple songs at least well enough to impress a couple friends. You might have some basic understanding of music theory or something, but you really haven't had any formal training. So if that's you, you're in the right place. If you feel, throughout this lesson like it's way too advanced, you might want to go back and check out yesterday's lesson. It's in the archives, the beginner's version of this lesson. That might answer a lot of your questions, but feel free to ask away, ask any questions. This is about you and me, so you got to ask questions so I know, how to help you best. And there's a couple other things I want to talk to you too about before this countdown clock hits 0. All right, first and most important, ask a lot of questions. The way that you're going to do that is there's a couple different ways. You can jump in the chat room and talk with the other students who are logged in at the same time. I'll be watching the chat room too. You can ask your questions there. Or if it's a question that's just for me, a question about the lesson, especially if you know it's one that's going to fit best at the question and answer time at the end, then you can just put your name and your question in the box below this video, click submit, and then I will get that. Now, if you're already in the archives, if you're watching this not live, but you're watching this in the archives, then make sure at the end of the lesson you click on the survey button. You don't have to fill out the entire survey. If you want to, I'd love your feedback, but really the best part of that is that you can put your question in there, and then we click submit. Then I will get all of your questions. I'll make sure that you get them answered, whether you're in the archives or you're live. Right next to this video, there should be a PDF button and an MP3 button. Now, you don't really need those till after the lesson because I'm going to be showing you on screen the PDF and showing you how to use it. And I'll play the MP3 during the lesson too, so you know at the end of the lesson how you're going to use that. Some people, though, like to print out the PDF ahead of time, so as I'm making notes on my version, they can make the same notes on their version, but it works either way. All right, this is perhaps the most important part. You need to leave the lesson when you feel like you're sufficiently challenged. So, I'm teaching these lessons, 12 to 15 lessons a month. Normally, in traditional lessons, you're getting like a lesson every other week or so. So this is just way too much for you to take in. So, the goal is for you to get some little nugget of something that you can really practice on, really work on. Once you feel like you have that, then you really don't need anything else from me. Go practice. That's where this stuff is really going to happen. You're not going to get through this lesson and be able to play something really well. You're going to get through this lesson and have the information that you need to practice more effectively. That's really the goal here. So don't feel bad about taking off early. If you feel like halfway through the lesson you got as much as you can take in at that time, then go practice that thing, and then, you know, come back whenever you've got that thing down, or you're bored with it, or you just want to check out the next topic. Don't forget also that you've got the archives too. So if you want to like see one little thing, just repeat it over and over and over. Just, you know, give me, hopefully within 24 hours after the lesson, this thing will be up in the archives, so you can just go back and watch it over and over and over and over and just get that little segment down. All right, so honestly, I'm almost afraid to tell you this, but today, out of the 8 sectors of musicianship, the one that we're focusing on is improvisation. So this is, you know, making stuff up, the much beloved, much feared improv sector. So anyway, this is, hopefully you're going to leave with a little better idea of how you can make up great sounding stuff and not have to necessarily have sheet music in front of you in order to be able to play cool sounding stuff and impress your friends and to have fun on the piano. So it's improv. Here we go. All right, welcome back to LearnPianoLive.com. Today we're doing improvisation. I'm excited about this one, but first we need to do some housekeeping. So, all right, so a couple things here. First of all, the lesson tomorrow is going to be at 11:30. So if you are a person who shows up to the live lessons, then 11:30 is going to be your time. If you're in the archives, of course, you don't care at all. And I know if you are an archives person, there are, I believe, 3 lessons right now in the archives that are not loading. So I'm aware of that. I am working on it, and hopefully you should be able to get that cleared up here pretty soon. So I think that's it. Let's jump in and do today's lesson. All right, so there we go. That is, man, crud on my CPU is looking like it's already at 100%. We'll see if this, hopefully the stream is going all right. Let me know in the chat room, by the way, if you can hear me or see me. We're still fighting against some technical difficulties, but all the tests went great, and then we get the live lessons, which is sometimes different. Okay, so all the stuff that I did there was a combination of either what we did yesterday in the beginner's lesson or to what we're going to do today. So first thing is the pentatonic scales. Let's go ahead and jump into our, here we go, our PDF. So the pentatonic scales are just the regular scales where we've taken out the 7 and the 4, and we've talked about this in some other contexts as well, but these are really the safest notes in any key. So in this case, we're going to be in the key of C. The play-along track are all these chords here: C major, D minor, F, A minor, and G. So those are all the chords that we're going to be playing. Those are all listed right there under the homework and goal and play along test. So then the pentatonic scales are just the 1, the 2, the 3, the 5, and the 6 of the scale. Yesterday we talked about playing each of the notes and getting used to the shapes of the patterns and stuff like that. But today we just want to take out the 4 and the 7 and play the most common notes. This is a really extremely common thing to do on guitar because the shape on guitar just happens to be really easy to play. Every single key, the pentatonic scales are just super easy. Pretty much with 2 fingers you can get through a pentatonic scale. On piano it's a little bit more difficult, but it's still not too bad. So in the key of C, this is a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 5 and a 6, and then we're back up to the 1 again. And then it's just 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1. So these notes right here are going to sound pretty good all the way through this whole entire thing because we're in the key of C. So. All just pentatonic scales. Every single note fits in pretty much the whole entire time. So it's a really safe scale to get used to. And then here's the thing, if you get used to your pentatonic scales, then in any key, you can go up 3 half steps and play that pentatonic scale, and that will be like a bluesier version of what you're doing currently in the current key. So as an example here, we're in the key of C, right? But if we go up 3 half steps, 1, 2, 3, that lands us in the key of E flat. Now the E flat pentatonic scale is these ones right here, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. E flat, F, G, B flat, C, and then it all repeats over again. So these notes right here seem like they would not fit into the key of C. We got a bunch of black notes in there and stuff. But if I actually play that over this key of C right here, especially if I combine it with the pentatonic scale from the key of C. E flat, then to the C majors, their C pentatonic scale. E flat, C. E flat, C, E flat, C. E flat, C. So just going back and forth between the E flat and the C, you can hear every time hopefully you can hear every time I go to the E flat chord or the E flat pentatonic scale, then things get really like bluesy and gritty and stuff, and then I switch back to the C and it all turns pretty again. But they both kind of fit in, they just have very different textures. So that's how you use your pentatonic scales, not only the pentatonic scale from the key that you're in, but also the pentatonic scale from the one that is 3 half steps higher than whatever key you're in. Now, for you advanced students who just show up to the intermediate lessons as like a preamble to our lesson, this is the same thing as the blues scale. So the E flat pentatonic scale is basically just the C blues scale, but it's missing like the sharp 4 and the regular 7. So if that didn't make any sense to you, that's perfectly fine. But that for some people I know that might have turned on a light for you. So let's talk about left-hand patterns here. These are the probably the most helpful, the most useful left-hand patterns that you might already be playing and not even know it. But let's check these out. So the first thing is just the root in the left hand. So the most basic thing we would want to do with this pentatonic scale up here is make sure that we cover the roots of the chords in the left hand. Yesterday we talked about playing the whole entire triad, which is definitely a thing. It sounds kind of dorky, but but it's a great exercise because you're getting used to where all the chord tones are, and so that's going to help you in your solo. But for like actual playing, then I would say maybe just having the root down there. So something like that would be just the root of the chord in the left hand, and obviously my right hand would be playing the solo. Now, after that, you might want to add in the 5 of the chord. So this is the same thing that we were doing in yesterday's lesson with the whole triad, except we're taking the 3 out, because that's kind of what makes the whole thing sound dorky. Not the 3 in particular, but the fact that you've got that cluster of notes that are all too close together. So we've got the 1, the 3, and the 5, it's too much. So we take the 3 out, and we end up having the 5 in there. And so that would sound more like this. And then if I play them one note at a time, we have and then on top of that, everything from there is just kind of a variation, same thing. So 1, 5, 1 might be a thing that you've already played before. It's just duplicating whatever you were playing at the bottom, the root of the chord, at the top. And that's where, like later on in the beginning part, when I was playing at the beginning of the lesson, I was doing more of that stuff, and it kind of gets that like poppy piano feel. Stuff like that. And then of course you can add in more stuff on top of that. The 2 and the 3 there. So this is 1, 5, 1, 2, 3. And then after that, we're just kind of getting crazy with this stuff. 1, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, 3, 2, 1, 5. So the possibilities on top of that are kind of endless, but make sure you hit the 1 on beat 1 or on the chord change is probably the biggest thing, and then making sure that you don't cluster things too close together is the basis of that whole type of playing. And then if you want to do some jazz stuff, I believe this starts in level 4 of Kalopal Academy, which we haven't actually released the jazz part of that yet. So none of you have this, but it's coming to you. The 3 and the 7 of the chord, if you're wanting to turn this thing into a jazz thing, then that would be something like this being our 1 chord, and just adding that 7 on there. Now, if that didn't make any sense, this next part's really going to be crazy, but for those of you who are already playing 7 chords, then the 3 and the 7 are what are called the guide tones, and those are going to be the most important notes to hang on to. So having that and playing the 3 and the 7, as long as you have a bass player playing the 1, then you've got... And this kind of sounds jazzy now. I'm just playing the 3 and the 7 of each one. You can turn them around too. You can invert it just like any chord. So you can play for the A minor, you play the 3 and the 7, playing the 7 down there instead of the 3 and the 7 like you would normally have in the chord right there, 3 and 7. You could put the 7 down there, because it's still the 3 and the 7. And now we've got... and the 7 of the F, 3 and the 7 of the A minor, and 3 and the 7 of the C. So again, those are called the guide tones, and it's just hanging on to the 3 and the 7 of each chord. Okay, Super duper cool. So that's all of that stuff, and I believe we have covered everything. Is that possible? I think it is. So that means it's time for our feature of the day, which today we actually have, and it's a Furmanxi Academy. Is something apparently several of you have told me about and told me how great the guy is, though he's a bit wacky. I'm not one to throw stones on that, I guess. But I guess he's a really great piano educator, and he's free on YouTube. So you might want to go check him out if you haven't heard of him before, and if he is your style, then cool. Pick up some cool stuff, and if you've got any questions, always feel free to bring it back to me, and I'll be happy to explain anything further. A lot of these guys are really great teachers or great pianists, but it's hard to get a hold of them or hard to get a response from them. So that's kind of part of what you're paying for here, I guess, is the ability to ask me questions. So if you have any questions about his stuff or anybody else, then send it on over, and we will either turn it into a lesson or I'll just answer your question about it privately. Let's do our wrap up, and then I'll get to your questions that you have, if you have any. Oh, we do. Okay, cool. So our wrap up includes stuff like our chords. We briefly went through those: the C, the D minor, the F, the A minor, and the G. And then we talked about the pentatonic scale and how that's just the 1, the 2, the 3, the 5, and the 6 of each major scale. And then you want to take out the 4 and the 7. But if you go up 3 half steps and play that pentatonic scale, then that's a really bluesy, gritty feel, kind of a variation on the scale that you can. It's not a variation on a scale. It's an entirely different scale that you're allowed to play that you probably wouldn't guess on your own, because it would be weird to just go up 3 half steps for no reason and play that major scale or that pentatonic scale. And then at the end, we talked about some left-hand patterns. It's basically built on the 1 and the 5 in the left hand. Talked about how you don't want to cluster notes too close together in your left hand. And then we just touched on the 3s and the 7s and using those as comping in the left hand, or even if you're going to play the bass line down here, playing the 3s and the 7s, those are called guide tones. And then I told you that that's, I think, in Clavicle Academy Level 4 that you don't have yet, and that was not helpful at all, and I probably shouldn't have repeated it right there. So I think that's the whole thing. Let's get to your questions, and then we'll be moving on. First question. Actually, this first thing is a note from myself. Because yesterday I was asked if there are any good books for the rules on making up songs, or improv books. And we talked about the difference between writing a song and writing a solo and improvising. So I'm still compiling a list of books. I'm hoping to have that together by tomorrow. But I have 1 or 2 already, but I know there's some other good ones out there. So I've got some feelers out to some other musicians in the area that are going to help me compile a good list of improv books that would help you along your way. But as I said yesterday, always the biggest barrier to entry for improvisation is feeling like you aren't good enough, or that you're not doing it the right way, or just that whole insecurity about it and not just jumping in and playing notes and whatnot. So the biggest thing you can do is just jump in and try some of this stuff. And if it sounds terrible, then cool. You found one of the things to avoid, and then if you find anything that sounds good in there, then hang on to that nugget. That's the beginning, that's the basis of what will eventually become your improvising vocabulary. And then, of course, as always, send me your videos, and I'll be happy to help you grow the little nuggets that you found into entire, nuggets don't really grow into anything. That was a seed. Grow it into a mighty oak. I don't know. All right, so the first actual question is improvising the same skill for all types of music, or all instruments for that matter? Is improvising the same skill for all types of music? So if you're asking if, in different genres, the improvs, yes, I think that would make sense. Improvising in different genres. A jazz improvised solo is going to sound different than a classically improvised solo, which is going to sound different than a country improvised solo. So they all have their own types of vocabulary. All the stuff we've discussed so far, minus the 3 and 7 guide tone thing that we did today, is pretty much universal. It's kind of the building blocks for all the rest of it. So I would say that one, all the stuff we've done here so far is pretty safe. But no, once we get farther into it, then yeah, it does definitely, each one has its own kind of feel to it. In the same way that if you listen to someone from the deep south of America, they're going to sound different than someone from Northern California, for example, or if from different countries. You know, we all have our different accents. So yeah, different genres have different accents for sure. But I mean, if you learn English, you learn English, and you can come to the United States and talk with just about anybody, and you'll just sound funny, and they'll sound funny to you. But we're all still speaking approximately the same language. So we're doing just basic English here so far. We're not really getting into any of the specifics of the genres. But I'm hoping to add that to what we're now calling the Musicpedia. That's the thing where you like select the skills. So you can like say, hey, I want to be a good country improviser, and then we'd give you all the videos just leading up to country improvisation. So that might be a little bit specific for the live lessons, but as always, if I get enough requests for it, we'll cover it here. And then, oh, it looks like that is it. Cool. Let me just refresh to make sure, but I think, yes, that is our last question. So then, until next time, good luck. Have fun, and I have no idea where my outro is here. That's awesome. Okay, well, we have no outro. I'm just going to say goodbye. Oh, good luck. Have fun.